the Energy Boutique with your energy and ascension forecast for Sunday, September 21st to Saturday, September 27th. So last week, we kicked off the week with that last quarter moon in Gemini. Definitely highlighted where it is that we were feeling torn, specifically between two different versions of self. Of course, this whole Virgo season and eclipse season has been about installing the new programming for the higher self. But of course, that means removing the old operating system, which many of us are overly attached to. That Gemini energy also kind of highlighted where we're feeling split, torn, and divided between particular decisions, life paths, very, very important timeline jumps, which means that, again, we had a lot to process. That Gemini energy was all up in the headspace, and in Virgo season, Mercury rules not only the Virgo energy, but the Gemini energy as well. And as we kind of move through that last quarter, Mercury was making his way through the final degrees of his rulership in Virgo energy, which basically meant that we were able to take the different choice points, the different decisions that we're feeling very split and torn about. We were able to break it down into the smallest of details to figure out A, if this program, if this narrative is actually supporting growth and evolution, and B, whether or not we actually felt resonance with this new path, with this new direction, with this new goal, vision, and dream. Of course, that last quarter moon is all about removing, releasing, eliminating the aspects, the circumstances, the thoughts, the emotions that are preventing us from moving on and moving forward. And we have, since the 14th, been building towards this new moon solar eclipse that I'm going to talk about here in just a second. Because, of course, that's not all that took place last week. We had Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, shift into Libra energy here on the 18th, furthering feeling torn, feeling split, feeling divided between choice points, narratives, aspects of life. The Libra energy is represented by the scales. The scales are currently in flux. They are not coming down anytime soon. This eclipse season not only kind of put them out of whack, but they're spinning as well. So we're waiting for that momentum to kind of die down, for stability to come back in order for those scales to stay put and actually show us where it is that we are currently leaning towards, either locking down, stabilizing what once was, or changing it up, evolving, growing into what could possibly be. We're not seeing those choices yet. We're not seeing those decisions yet. We're not seeing anything clearly while still under the influence of this eclipse energy. So patience is a virtue that we're all learning the hard way. And of course, Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, she just left Leo energy, the heart and soul of the zodiac, for Virgo energy. She's just shifted into Virgo energy here earlier today on the 19th. And so we're still adjusting and acclimating to both Mercury and Venus. Both of them kind of gave permission to each other to kind of set up shop in each other's rulership. Of course, Venus rules over the Libra energy that Mercury is currently in, and Mercury rules over the Virgo energy that Venus is now in. So this is heart and head reweaving together this new program, this new narrative, this new perspective, this new lens. And under the influence of this eclipse energy that has us eclipsed from the truth, eclipsed from the future, eclipsed from the ultimate goal, we are definitely, again, needing to double down on exercising patience, exercising our observer abilities so that we don't get caught up in trying to force a situation, a circumstance, a decision before it's time. Now, we have been building towards this eclipse energy. So this week, we're kicking the week off with the new moon solar eclipse taking place at 29 degrees, 5 minutes of Virgo energy. You want to talk about mastery? You want to talk about perfection, where purification and cleansing is concerned? This is the most pivotal eclipse that I think we've had in a very long time. First of all, 29 degrees is no joke, never is. It's karmic. It's pressure filled. It's shit or get off the pot time. It's you better do it and do it well because there is no redo energy following this particular eclipse gateway. And interestingly enough, a new moon is supposed to be the birth of something new. A solar eclipse is supposed to be gifting us, adding something into our lives. But a 29 degree is more about removal, closures, and endings than anything else. More specifically, to create a space for the new to actually be built to give birth into a new chapter, a new topic, new theme, new storyline, which of course is going to follow pretty quickly after this eclipse pops off, because on the 22nd, first of all, we have Mars, the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, our desire, even our anger, sitting at a 29th degree in Libra energy through this particular eclipse pop off. And then Mars moves into his rulership in Scorpio energy. Just hours before, the sun shifts out of Virgo energy and moves into Libra energy, activating the equinox, which is a karmic checkpoint. So there's a lot of karmic threads being kind of, I'm going to say, in some cases cut off, in other cases being rewoven into the fabric of this new destiny that we as creator abilities are all trying to, create together. Believe it or not, I know division seems to be the name of the game on the collective stage there, but we are actually more aligned now than ever before. And that gives us the hope, the faith needed in order to overcome these particular challenges, to cut the karmic cords with this last chapter of life so that, again, we can start building new earth. This has been an eclipse for the books, so to speak. We've never had such a purification of evil, of darkness, rid from this earth plane in just a short amount of time. And it is essentially the pivot point that we've been waiting for. If you've been with me for any amount of time, you know that I've been talking about this pivot point for a very long time. We're here. We're in it. And this is why everybody is confused AF. This is why everybody feels torn in different paths and directions. This is why people feel everything and nothing at the exact same time, because we've never made it this far in the video game. And we sure as hell have never seen this type of karmic cleansing take place in real life time on this earth plane. And so again, acting as the observer is the only way to kind of live these days out, because we cannot be reacting some of the topics and themes that are being divinely scripted and forced on the global stage, because they're trying to harness the last little bit of fear energy from us. But it's pretty hard when you trust the greater, grander plan and you believe in something that is unseen. It's pretty hard to hold that amount of fear in the physical form. And if you are feeling a little bit debilitated by fear, I'm really, really, really going to welcome you into doing the work. You can't hold this kind of energy in your vessel anymore. You have to be doing the work. And people are like, well, what does the work mean? Where do you start? You start with the shadow work. It's why I create the moon guides. It's why I create monthly guides, in order to kind of guide you and help you align with the energies. Everybody is so focused on wanting to manifest a better situation and circumstance, a better reality for themselves, not realizing that shadow work is the first step in doing that. You have to remove the old unconscious egoic programming that is creating the junk and the gunk in your system. You have to remove that before you're going to have the space to actually bring in a new vibration, frequency, and resonance in order to manifest the realm and reality of your choosing. But people don't like to do the work, and people are definitely struggling right now because it's very clear on who has been leaning in and doing the work and who has not. And heads are going to roll. Psychosis is going to take over. There's a whole wave of people, souls, should I say, choosing to sit this one out. Many people are not moving into this next chapter. Many people are going to be tapping out very early in this next chapter because they do not want to do what you have to do in order to basically evolve your DNA structure, your crystalline body, while still in this physical vessel. And that's just a hard truth. We're not all here to grow, to evolve, to ascend. We're not all here to anchor in the darkness. We all have different roles. We all have a very important part and role to play. And we just have to, again, step back and observe ourselves, the people, the world around us, especially in our immediate environment, because again, you're a vibration, you're a frequency. Those that you attract close to you are mirroring back the frequency and vibration that you hold within yourself. And then on the greater, grander global stage, it's very clear to see where the line has been drawn in the sand, where it is that we cannot continue to repeat situations and circumstances from the past, from history, and call ourselves an evolved, intelligent collective. This is the turning point. This is the pivot point we've been waiting for. We have no choice but to go into uncharted territory, moving on and moving forward. We can never walk back through the same door, the same threshold that we're currently standing in, trying to decide whether or not we're going to settle for what it is that we've already got, or whether we're going to push ourselves out of this comfort zone and really explore a brand new foreign territory that we don't know what to expect, but it's got to be better than what it is that we've already got. So we're going through it. And of course, even if we were not in eclipse season right now, approaching the equinox is always a big deal. We have basically a check-in point to see where it is that we're at in our healing, in our growth, in our evolution. We have timeline shifts, storyline shifts, new roles of people kind of coming into play while others are exiting to the left. This is a shift like no other that we've ever experienced before, because like I've previously mentioned, we've never gotten this far into the video game. So we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to discuss. We have a lot of energies that are coming at us here this week, have already been coming at us, but are going to reach a peak, reach ahead here this week. And that means that the physical body is going to be a little bit uncomfortable with trying to manage these new vibrations, frequencies, these new timelines, these new storylines, this new programming. And so it's always good to stay ahead of the game. So before we dive into that, just a reminder, this is our second lunar cycle that we will be kicking off in Virgo energy. This one's going to be an interesting lunar cycle for us to be both manifesting and doing the shadow work in, because again, it begins with an eclipse. And so it's going to be a very interesting dynamic. If you are taking part in, doing the manifesting work, the shadow work with those moon guides, you can either acquire the full moon guide for the full lunar cycle from my Patreon, or that is now available for download directly from my website as well. The September energy guide is only available through my Patreon. You can access it through my website. But we have some events that we still have to live through here this week that are going to be very important to the puzzle that we are piecing together here. And that September energy guide is here to help you through that, to lean into the power of these energy cycles instead of kind of, being dragged along with them. So with all that being said, let's talk about the energy. Now, let's be very clear here. There's a multitude of evolution going on. Of course, our earthly bodies are going through a shift in evolution, a little bit of a attack, if you will, with the electronic, let's call it poisoning going on in our atmosphere and in our earth plane. But our energy body, our soul body, is what is actually doing the ascension part of it, meaning when you're doing the healing work, when you're evolving, when you are, expanding your intelligence and doing the work to grow out of old holding patterns, that has a direct impact on your DNA. And that's why your DNA is so valuable. And we're trying to bring the crystalline grid online within ourselves and on the physical earth plane. But in order to do that, we have to deconstruct the matrix grid, which, in case you're not paying attention here, it is glitching out. It is in some forms collapsing. We are watching the real life collapse of that false light grid taking place in this present moment, in the here and now. But I think people get confused on, what these ascension symptoms are all about. Yes, the ascension symptoms is our DNA evolving. It is new energy coming into the physical vessel, but our physical bodies are also under attack. And I think it's very important to understand that the amount of electromagnetic frequency, radiation, all of this, pollutants that we are exposed to here on the earth plane has a major impact on the physical body as well. And it's also pushing the pain, the discomfort in our physical body for people to open up, to want to do better, to want to be better, which of course puts them on the healing journey, which of course opens up their soul path, which of course lends into the process of ascension. And so I know there's a lot of confusion around that. Sometimes I hate even playing into the, new age spirituality kind of lingo, like, ooh, the ascension symptoms, ooh, ascension forecast, because technically speaking, a lot of the discomfort that we feel on a daily basis, on a regular, isn't necessarily ascension symptoms. It's our physical bodies being attacked by frequency. But at the same time, it's all the same thing. It's just on different levels of dimension, and it's different levels of understanding depending on where it is that you're at in your journey. Either way, it's all kind of, pushing us to take better care of thyself. And that's what this whole journey is all about, is to know thyself, is to heal thyself, and then to protect the healing work in which you've done within thyself. So that was a little rant you didn't know that I had in me. I didn't know I had it in me either. Most of the times I just sit down and I open my mouth and I just let whatever comes out. I'm just as surprised as half of the shit that I say as you guys are in real time. So for whatever reason, I felt the need to explain, the physical body symptoms of being, on the receiving end of radiation poisoning, because technically that's what we're going through, versus the spiritual and soulful body going through its own evolution, preparing ourselves for the crossover, if you will, into the higher dimensions, the higher realms. So we're just going to go with it. Now, coming into this week, we're kicking it off with a solar eclipse. We are sitting in a depth of darkness that we haven't experienced before, and I think it's pretty clear to see on the global stage where that darkness has manifested into some real-time storylines, okay? But at the same time, it's always the darkest right before the dawn. It's always a little bit of a breakdown energy before the breakthrough, and we are definitely on the cusp of these particular events. A new moon, if it was just a normal new moon, we'd be sitting in the darkness anyways. The whole point of a new moon is to sit in the funk, to sit in the darkness, to realize what we're done with, realize what it is that we no longer want to experience, what we no longer want to feel, and to come up with alternatives of what it is that we could do differently or what it is that we would want to see be different in our physical realms. And that essentially becomes the seeds that we plant, as far as intentions go, under a new moon cycle, which is how we manifest. Now, typically speaking, I find manifesting under eclipse energy to be a little bit not necessary, mostly because we're not in power, we're not in control of our own damn selves. The universe has the wheel. We are at the mercy of the cosmos, and we are getting sorted out and put on a path that we failed to put ourselves upon. So when it comes to manifesting, it's pretty hard to manifest when you are in a space that you've never been in before, that you have no sweet Jesus clue of what's going on out in the world around you, when you're being blocked from seeing things clearly. All you can do is really sit in your heart space and think of your happy place and think of the details, very specific details under this Virgo energy, of if you could close your eyes and create this beautiful life that you want to open your eyes and immediately start living, what would that look like? What would that feel like? That is as far as I would go as far as manifesting rituals under an eclipse goes, is just holding a vision, holding a vision, a realistic vision, because again, this is Virgo energy, so we have to be realistic with our goals here. But I would just hold that vision very, very strongly and hope for the best, and understand that it's not up to you to figure out the step-by-step plan in order to get from point A to point B. You just have to know what that end goal looks like and feels like, and be open enough to allow the universe to guide you there. That's where hope and faith and trust comes into play. And this is something that we're learning the hard way through these eclipses that we're currently in, because Pisces energy, the North Node is in that Pisces energy. That's where we need to be leaning into. That's trust, faith, and hopes and dreams. That is, putting all of our eggs in an unseen, metaphysical, wishful thinking basket, if you will. And the South Node in Virgo is what we're trying to break away from, which is being so realistic, so anchored into the present moment, that we're using our current circumstances to dictate what is possible for us. And I don't know about y'all, but if we did that, that's a pretty dark, pretty bleak type of future that we would be envisioning if we were just taking our physical, present moment circumstances and saying, okay, if this is all I got to work with, and there is no hope, there is no faith, there's no imagination, there's no creativity, if this is all that I have to work with, what could I make out of this? Well, hate to tell you, but it's the same type of shit show. And so we do have to strike a balance between allowing ourselves to believe in something greater, something that requires us to have hope and faith and trust in it, because we can't see it. It's not rooted in truth or reality at all. It's just potentiality. We have to balance that with not losing ourselves out of this present moment. The whole way of us evolving right now is embodiment. You have to stay in your body, as uncomfortable as it may be. You know, all of these people out on, spiritual TikTok and all these people that are constantly trying to meditate and astral project and remote view or whatever, y'all are setting yourself up for dangerous astral entrapment, because that's why they released some of the information. I'm trying to be very cryptic here. It's why they released some of the information from some of these big government agencies with a step-by-step plan on how to do all of these things. I can't believe that nobody trusts the government, but yet when the government wants to release step-by-step tools on how to access, other dimensions, that suddenly everybody wants to jump in and try it step by step. You guys don't realize that they've created a very, very dangerous fake astral, let's call it, program that they have given you directions to enter into in order for them to poach you while you're disconnected from your body. Y'all are just messing with things that you have no clue that you're messing with. The name of the game right now is to stay in your freaking body, right? Because there are body jumpers and hijackers out there. And if you think I'm talking woo-woo, then obviously you haven't dabbled in the supernatural realm as much as you maybe should have in order to understand what you're playing with here. But the name of the game here is to stay in your freaking body, okay? The name of the game is to bring heaven to earth. How do you do that? You achieve a peaceful state in your mental plane and you keep it in your body. You anchor it into the vessel. So there's a lot of people right now that are losing their mind and losing their shit because they've been doing all of this, energy work based off of the guidance of some not so trustworthy, reputable type of A, government groups, and B, mentors. Don't know if you've noticed, but we're seeing a huge fall of those spiritual gurus. We knew that would happen the minute that Saturn entered into Pisces energy 2 years ago. And surprisingly enough, now that Saturn has re-entered into Pisces energy, we're watching a lot of those spiritual leaders, spiritual mentors, just fall off the face of the planet, which I think is a beautiful thing. Again, there's been a lot of delusion, a lot of confusion. The Pisces energy is, belief system, and Saturn, the Lord of Karma, is here to deconstruct the false belief systems that have been leading the collective astray. So in this eclipse energy, I'm bringing this up because, in case you haven't noticed, sleep has been a little bit weird. Your dreamscape has been a little bit strange. The astral realm, the actual astral realm, not the fake one that, government agencies created in order to trap your higher self in, but the actual astral realm has been wackadoodle as well. And there is a high peak potency of soul entrapment that takes place in between eclipses. And we watched, and I'm going to be very careful with this too, but if you listen to my new moon solar eclipse in Virgo rant, you would already know what I'm going to talk about. I have to bring it up again, but I am going to be cryptic because this is public, and YouTube already hates me. But anyways, we watched in real time, in real earthly matters, a blood sacrifice take place between eclipses, okay? And I don't know if you're aware of what's taking place as far as that conclusion of that climactic story goes here on the 21st. But when I say to you this week, specifically, you should not be putting yourself out in public. You should not be putting yourself in big groups of any kind of masses, okay? And even more than that, and I'm not going to get specific with this, but hopefully when it pops out and it pops on the global stage and you have this warning, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about here. But there's going to be a situation, a circumstance, 23rd to 24th, but technically I think it's going to stem from the 21st to the 24th. So again, be mindful. There's going to be another huge storyline emerge on the global stage. And it's going to be, I'm going to say, in a religious context. And I'm also going to say that it carries very heavy energy, very bad vibes. And what I would also want to say here is that even if you are quote unquote against it or not in alignment with it, and you still watch it or you witness it, you are part of the problem. Okay. The war right now is spiritual, and it's always been for your attention, for what you give your attention to. And with these evildoers playing their stupid little games on the global stage in the way that they've been, they are dangling some horrific truths. You know how the whole line about like it's like watching a train that you know is about to crash and collide, but you can't take your eyes off of it. Well, this is what I mean. There's going to be something different. We know the storyline that popped off for the eclipse season, right? We knew started with that energy harvesting event for the music awards on the 7th under the full moon lunar eclipse. It was shortly followed up there by the 9/9 portal, which of course was the trigger and activation for the cleansing, the purification period that we've watched take place over the last 2 weeks. Then on September 10th, that's when the headlines reached their climactic blood sacrifice event prior to on the eve of September 11th, which of course is the major energy harvesting event. It's all playing out on the global stage, okay? And the conclusion for that particular shit show storyline is happening on the 21st, is happening under this eclipse. So again, like when you can kind of walk the line between both worlds and you can see it very clearly, you know to look away when they come at you with a different storyline to distract you. What I'm getting at is there is some religious roots anchored into the 23rd, 24th that I think will be the new storyline or the new headline that gets, streamed on all different platforms because they're looking for your attention. And when you give it attention, even if it's horrific, even if you don't want to watch it, even if you watch it and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that this is happening, blah, 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 you're still a part of the problem. You're giving them your energy and attention. So when I say to you that this week we have this eclipse, that is the closure of the ritual that they began under the full moon lunar eclipse. That is a closed door. Then the next day is the equinox. That's when the brand new, and here I'm trying to piece it together, puzzle piece it together. When you enter into a brand new karmic chapter, there you always get a hyped event. And it's usually horrific, and it's usually loss, or it's usually catastrophic as far as a natural disaster goes, or a scripted, quote unquote, unnatural event that appears as if it, organically unfolded, naturally speaking. You always get a shit show that comes right out to play, asking for chaos, craziness, and your attention the minute that we enter into a new karmic chapter. Specifically in Libra energy, that has to do with women and children, that has to do with justice, legalities, fairness. When I say to you, here's your warning, when I say to you that there's going to be some shit hitting the fan here this week, that's going to make your head turn away from the shit show we just watched through eclipse season and go all the way to the opposite direction with disbelief, please shut your phones off. Please shut your TVs off. Please just disconnect yourself from the algorithm that is siphoning your attention and pouring it into this ritualistic type of event that they want your energy for. Please just shut it down and shut it off. That's all I'm going to say about it. I've done the best I can. Hopefully you can read between the lines. Hopefully when it pops out, you'll be able to be like, oh, damn, that's exactly what she was talking about. I'm going to turn my head away now. I'm not giving my energy to this. Hopefully you do that. I really encourage you to do that. Okay, so again, got a little bit off topic there. Let's jump into the physicality of it all. So again, we're all feeling like we're living in like this dream-like, spacey, not really with it, euphoric type of state of life, right? Like we don't know if we're coming or going. We don't know. Sometimes you wake up from a dream. If you're lucky enough to be sleeping, not sleeping. So if you're lucky enough to be sleeping any amount of time throughout the night, you're probably waking up in the morning and having a really hard time getting going. And you're probably experiencing this dream bleed when your dreams kind of stick with you throughout the day. And there's this weird sense even throughout the day where you think of a memory or you think of a glimmer of remembrance of a particular dream. And you really have to ask yourself, like, did that shit really happen? Like, is that a memory or was that a dream? right? So everything is weird, everything is wackadoodle. Why, you may ask? Because the karmic threads are getting A, cut and severed in some cases, B, rethreaded, rewired, and C, rewoven into the new fabric of destiny, which is what eclipses are all about. Specifically this eclipse, because it's at 29 degrees of the, it's Virgo energy, it's purification, it's cleansing, it's the fixer, healer, healer, and repairer of the zodiac. It's the physical body. It's the mental plane. It's the programming that runs thyself. The programming that runs thyself is the programming that runs the collective. And there is a huge bid for your programming right now. Again, why I encourage you to lean in and do the work. But this state of dreamlike spaciness, euphoria, is basically what the F state. I don't know about you, but I walk through my day and I say what the F probably about 1 million times. Because seriously, like, what the F is going on here? What the F is going on? Well, it is a necessary part of the process to feel this disorganized, disorientated, discombobulated, spaced out. The confusion is needed in order for us to be more open and vulnerable to accepting the new programming, the new changes that are coming at us with this eclipse. And so, like I often say, and I'm going to say it again, if you are confused AF right now, torn in 2 different directions, not knowing what's up from down, not knowing where it is that you're at or who it is that you are, congratulations, you're exactly where it is that you need to be. People don't like when I say that because people want clarity all the time. Again, clarity is Virgo energy. The South Node is in Virgo. It's what we've already perfected. We need to let go of. We need to get out of the mental mind. The mental mind is the ego. The ego is keeping us stuck in unconscious patterns and behavior. The less we can think, the more we can trust, the better off we would all be. Thinking makes things hard. Thinking gets you in trouble. You have to be in flow. You have to be in receptiveness of the hints and the clues that the universe is giving you, not trying to intellectually think your way through all of these wackadoodle topics and themes. Speaking of symbolism and signs and symbols and synchronicities, the minute that we get through this eclipse, the minute that we walk through that equinox gateway is the minute that everything is going to feel different. And the best way that I can explain it to you, it's as if you grew up on a movie set and you thought this movie set was real. You didn't know you were in a movie set. We're talking about the Truman Show, right? You didn't know that you were living on a movie set. But when you walk off the movie set and you see what a real tree looks like, and you see what real houses look like, and real people look like, and a real store looks like, suddenly you look back at this fake ass movie set that you thought was real the whole time, and you're like, damn, how did I miss that, right? The reason why I'm saying this is because when we get through this eclipse and when we get through this equinox, everything is going to feel different. It's going to feel more real. It's going to feel more vibrant, like there's more life in it. And I want you to pay very high attention to symbolism, to synchronicities coming at you, okay? These are going to be validation points from your higher self that you're on the right path. You might not know what that path is. You might still be in a state of confusion, but you have to be aware of the signs and the symbols and the synchronicities in order to follow that particular path. Signs and symbols and synchronicities, whether it's animals, whether it's turning on the radio and hearing, a meaningful song or a very specific sentence that is very, very, important to what it is that you're thinking about or trying to figure out. If you have, animal totems coming at you, that's the way that the universe works, right? And those are all coordinate signs from your higher self to let you know that you're on the right path. It's a validation, it's a confirmation that you're on the other side of things. So I need you to be very, very aware because they're going to be coming at you in droves. Probably, I'm going to say midweek, but also probably won't even be that, we won't have to wait that long. Time is only linear here. The eclipse, once that happens, the equinox, once that happens, we're in brand new uncharted territory, my friends. And so, it's going to be pretty quick, but you should be looking for those signs and symbols and synchronicities and validations and confirmations each and every single day, but specifically this week, because it's going to calm the nervous system. It's going to calm your soul self. It's going to help you settle into the physical body that at this point in time you want to run away from. And for good reason. The amount of anxiety, and again, anxiety is just a label that we call unfocused energy. So again, feel free to pick your labels very, very carefully. But anxiety is very high. Restless energy, impulsivity. There's a jitteriness, there's an edginess, there is an overwhelming, let's call it unstable energy coursing through our veins right now. This is, again, trying to rewire the old programming in order to let the new programming take charge and take the lead. We're feeling all of this in our solar plexus, right in our gut, because that's where the upgrades take place. And I don't know if I'm going to give you two different analogies here because I don't know. I feel like I identify with both of them on a good day, but you know, sometimes one more than the other. Point that I'm getting at. There's the elevator effect, and I've used this analogy many, many times. It's when you're in the elevator is moving, and then it stops at your level, but your body continues to feel as if it's still moving, right? Like your stomach drops, if you will, or it just feels like you need a moment to get your energetic body back into the physical vessel so that you can like move off that elevator. So there's the elevator level of anxiety, but here's another analogy. Back when you were a kid, I don't know too many adults that do this because, you know, once you become an adult, you realize that even the smallest fall could definitely put you off for a week. But when you were a kid, right, you used to balance your chair on the back legs and just teeter-totter, you know, and you thought you were cool doing it. And you could just like, you know, find that equilibrium, find that balance within yourself to teeter on those two legs of that chair. But you know the feeling the minute that the equilibrium shifted and suddenly you thought you were going to fall and you could feel that chair kind of fall or teeter in a way that made you think that you were going to fall and then you grasped to the desk for dear life. It is that feeling that I think many of us are going to be tapping into in the collective's energy here this week, but specifically at the beginning of the week, walking through this eclipse gateway, walking through the equinox. So that energy doesn't feel fun. We're not supposed to feel good right now. Let me just kind of scream that point home. This isn't supposed to feel good. You're not supposed to feel good in your body. You're not supposed to feel content with your life. If you did, and you do, then congratulations, you are one of very few that knows where you're at, who it is that you are, and where it is that you're going from here. Because the name of the game right now is total destabilization in order for us to accept a new programming in which the higher self wants to take charge, take lead. But of course, the conflict between the old operating system and the new operating system is creating all of these energetic flutters, these energetic bugs. There's a state of restlessness. There's too much energy surging through our bodies, and we don't really have the tools, the resources, the discipline in order to calm the central nervous system down from this much energy. We haven't had to harness this much energy in our physical vessel ever before. So we haven't done this. You have to give yourself some grace. You know, you wouldn't yell at a child doing something for the very first time and them not doing it correctly or not doing it right. You wouldn't yell at them for it. You wouldn't tell them that they're an idiot and that they're a whiner or complainer or victim of any kind. You would give guidance and empathy and compassion and love and support in order to get this child to understand that nobody is ever good at something when you first try it. This is where we're at. So we need to extend a little bit more kindness. And I know that's a hard thing to do because this Virgo energy is highly judgmental, highly critical, especially of oneself. But this is where the work is needed. This is why we're doing this. We have to be as loving and as compassionate and as accepting and supportive to ourselves, first and foremost, as we so easily are to other people. How can you say that you are acting as authentic to your heart and soul space as possible when you wear a fake ass mask and fake facade trying to give the love and compassion and kindness to other people when you can't even look at yourself in the own damn mirror? The change that you want to see in the world starts within you. And the Virgo energy is here to cleanse and purify the junk and the gunk of that old egoic wounded operating system in order for this new higher level operating system to be fully functional when it gets going, when it's fully operational here. So I want to talk about heart activations. Man, there's going to be some heart activations. You want to talk about palpitations in your chest. You want to talk about not feeling like you can take a deep enough breath, like you're going to pass out because you're not getting enough oxygen. You want to talk about the little flutters, gas bubbles in your chest. You want to talk about a tight chest. You want to talk about shoulder blade pain. There's a lot of discomfort that's going on from the shoulders to the chest. Why? Because we're carrying a lot of emotional baggage that we should have unpacked many, many moons ago, but for, suckers like ourselves that like to drag the past in the present moment, potentially ruin the present moment, we're still dragging this ugly ass emotional baggage in. It's time to unpack. And the worst part of doing any kind of project is initially getting started. And that's what we're avoiding right now. That's what we're resisting right now. We're trying to distract ourselves with helping other people and getting organized in other areas of life when we should be sitting with our own damn selves and stop running from the discomfort in which we're feeling in our emotional plane. That's why the heart activations are happening. We want to talk about lower back pain. Okay, but specifically tailbone. We all got this little tailbone. Whether we all had reptilian tails at one point or not, that's a topic and theme for a different day. But our tailbones are going to become so sore, so uncomfortable that we can hardly sit. Why is that, you may ask? Well, because the ego programming sits in the base of the spine. This is why when you have a spiritual awakening, your Kundalini energy starts kind of uncoiling, starts moving up the spinal cord. The base of it, that little, Kundalini snake energy, if you will, it's a cluster F. It's a ball that sits at the base of your spine, in between your hips. That little, tailbone that we're talking about is essentially the tip of the snake's tail, the Kundalini energy that we need to be working on to get rise up through the 33 vertebrae of our spinal column to activate the pineal gland, to activate the milk and honey, the discretion that comes out of that particular pineal gland and runs down all of the vertebrae of your spine that restarts once again a new awakening cycle every single time that the moon moving through the cosmos arrives at the exact same point, degree, and sign as your sun sign. We get a huge chance every month to elevate our spiritual awareness with that Kundalini rising energy. Many people are sleeping on that. Many people don't even know about that particular cycle. Why do you think I track the moon the way that we do in the daily forecast? Why do you think that I create the moon guides? The moon is our unconscious programming. That's the ego programming that we have to become consciously aware of in order to flip the script about it so that we can operate from the higher version of self. This is why we follow the moon. It's very important to understand your own individual cycle. If you don't, we can work on that. There are resources to help you do that. I may actually be, I should be creating something to help people understand that a little bit more. But honestly, I don't know what people are into anymore. I don't even know if people are even on this healing journey anymore. It's been almost crickets in the community. I think people are just numbed out. I think people are in a state of paralysis. I think people are checked out and disassociated. And so it's very hard to kind of provide guidance to these healing goals when you don't even know if people are still on the healing wagon or not. Anyways, I suppose that's a topic and theme for another day as well. Okay, so let's talk about stomach upset, digestive upset. We've been talking about this. We talk about it pretty much every week because, again, the central nervous system really has a major impact on the gut. But Virgo energy, oh my goodness. Virgo energy creates anxiety and worry, and that sits as a knot in the gut. And we're supposed to be going through a purification point right now, a detox, if you will, which means that, we talked about it last week, a lot more bathroom trips. But there's an intestinal flare going on with this eclipse energy. And the intestinal flare is, of course, going to create a lot of problematic situations in the digestive tract and, of course, kind of amplify some of those trips to the bathroom. But I feel like, and again, I don't want to go too in depth in detail about this right now in this video, this forecast, but this has a lot to do with purging the parasites. We watch a huge amount of darkness be purified, purged, released from the earth plane, which essentially are parasites in physical vessels. And I feel like this eclipse is going to be very specific on trying to cleanse the gut, even if you haven't been leaning into a detox. There's going to be a flare up in the intestines because the parasites are being purged with this eclipse energy. And not to get too gross, but if you do have, I think we all have parasites to a certain extent. That's why you're supposed to be doing like detox and parasite cleanses. But like, you know, they come out to play at night and they can creep out your butthole and make your butthole itchy, specifically on moon events. And there's just an extra oomph that comes with an eclipse energy, and in Virgo energy, it's cleansing and purifying and removing a certain level of darkness from the earth plane is great. But then that means that the parasites that live within us that carry that darkness have got to go as well. And I just think that there's going to be a major flare up of intestinal issues. So yeah, digestive issues and upset. Yeah, additional bathroom issues, but specifically a lot of bloating, a lot of discomfort, a lot of maybe, I don't want to see anybody have intestinal bleeds, but that is a high probability as well. It just feels like there's going to be a lot of discomfort due to intestinal flare-ups. Let's talk about another not so nice situation happening. Sharp dagger-like stabbing in the head or in the eyes. Now, there's no way to sugarcoat that. Does that sound like fun? No, doesn't. But the downloads that are coming into our higher intellect through this eclipse and equinox doorway here this week, they're going to cut like a knife, literally, right? Like it feels like there's going to be a knife, a dagger, a hot poker that just gets stabbed into a particular area of your head or in your eye. Now, it is going to be short-lived, okay? So it's not like we're going to, have this come and it's going to stay with us like the whole freaking week. But it's enough to just jolt you. It's enough to debilitate you in that moment. And it's going to need a little bit of time for those downloads to actually settle in. And it feels forced, right? Like the energy coming into our crown, moving through our headspace this week, it's like a push. Like it's being forced in our higher self. It's being forced in our physical vessel, whether we want it or not. We should want it, but probably not in the way that we receive it, because, being stabbed with a hot poker doesn't feel fun. But that's just the way that the energy is coming in. Again, when I say to you that this is like shit or get off the pot energy, like we have to accept these codes because we're not going to be offered these codes ever again. Like this is serious upgrade recalibration time. It's a very short window of time. And, if we don't receive it, we won't receive it ever. That's as far as our upgrades are going to go. And so it does not feel good to receive the amount of downloads and codes that we are going to be receiving here in a very short amount of time, very, very short window that they are going to be coming in at the beginning of the week. But when I say that it's absolutely paralyzing in that moment, I am not joking. Prepare. There's going to be some jaw clenching, some toothaches, sore gums, maybe grinding in your sleep. If you got a bite plate, put that bite plate in. A lot of this is just, we're uncomfortable. We're kind of, we're jamming our jaws together and we're gritting it and we're bearing it. We know it's not going to be fun, but we're trying to stay in our bodies, right? What do you do when you're in a huge amount of pain in your physical body and you can't check out and you can't disassociate? You clench up. And this is us clenching up. This is us clenching for the, let's call it cosmic and energetic blowback that we are anticipating. It is going to be a major jolt to the system. And I feel like, it's going to be felt. We're holding a lot of tension in our jaw. Mercury, ruler of, communication in our headspace, is in Libra energy. So the teeter-tottering back and forth, we're sitting on the fence. We're not speaking our true truth because that's too aggressive. We would hate to be the bad guy, right? It's not the time nor the place for this forceful truth that we have to bite our tongue on and filter. So we're holding all that energy in. Emotional heart activations. Well, I already talked about the heart activations, but I want to talk about the emotional purging that comes out of those heart activations. Now, emotional purging could be crying, like you could be a blubbering mess, or you could scream your head off, scream into a pillow, scream into the wilderness, scream. Hopefully you're projecting your screaming at a worthy recipient. We don't want to project our frustrations or whatever existential dread we're trying to get out of our physical body on a not deserving participant. But you could even find yourself puking, and I hate even talking about that. And you would think that that goes with digestive issues. It actually doesn't, because the puking actually comes out of a huge emotional activation. So maybe you're crying so hard that you end up puking, or maybe you're screaming into your pillow so hard that you start coughing and choking and eventually can't catch your breath and therefore puke. I would hope that many of us, aren't going to be on the puking side. But when we talk about emotional purging, I just want you to understand that it could be projectile vomit purge, right? That there's no better way to get rid of the literal crap that is alive and well within you other than spewing it out. And I know that sounds gross, TMI, but guess what? We're human, and humans are gross. What else do I have on my list here? Okay, so let's talk about the temperature. We talk about temperature quite often. When I say to you that we're receiving huge amounts of energy this week, you would think that that would kind of err on the side of heat. I don't think so. I think it's going to be cold. I think it's going to be bone chilling cold. I think it's going to be like you can sit your ass in a hot tub of water and you can put multiple layers of clothes on. You can sit next to a fireplace and you're still going to feel chilled AF to the bone. That's a good sign. It doesn't feel good to be cold, especially, when you think that you're getting a cold or a flu, which is highly possible and probable with all of these physical manifestations of the energies popping off here this week. But then you wake up the next day and suddenly your mysterious cold and flu is gone. And suddenly you have your normal temperature back and you're like, what was that? That, my friend, was a download. That, my friend, was a shift. That, my friend, is brand new energy. That's the new programming. So we can feel kind of seasick here this week. Like we're, tossed from one side to the next. We have Libra energy, specifically Libra season is going to make us feel like we're on that teeter-totter. But I feel like we're going to have sea legs. We're not feeling very stable in life, period, right? And that manifests in the way that we feel standing on our own 2 feet. And we don't know which way we're going, not yet. So our feet are kind of cold and cramping. Our legs are kind of shaking, tremoring, unstable, if you will. We just feel discombobulated. We feel a little bit seasick, like we were just on a boat, okay? Let's not freak out. That dizziness, like there's dizziness of the head and then there's dizziness of the structure. And when you feel not so stable on your own 2 feet, that is like body dysfunction. That is like stability issues. That is like dizziness coming from not feeling safe and secure in your own 2 feet, on your own 2 feet. That's okay. That's going to pass very quickly. But as we go through this cosmic shit show of eclipse energies and equinox energies, how could anyone feel grounded and anchored and stable? Like, that's bewildering to me. And let me just also say this. Take a good look around, because even those that haven't awakened, even those that are not on this healing journey, they're losing their shit too, right? Like, you just have to just eavesdrop, if you will, on other people's conversations. Everybody's complaining. Life is not fun for anyone. Everyone is reaching a breaking point. Everyone is desperate for a change, for a transformation, for hope, for faith to be restored. Everybody is losing their shit in a totally different way. When you're on this awakening path, at least you know why. At least you can learn how to alchemize the energies and make them work for you instead of against you. And this is the whole point of why I do what I do. We have the ability to stay ahead of the game. When you know the cheat codes and you can expect for shit to hit the fan and you have cheat codes, suddenly you can clean up the mess a lot easier than having to kind of step back in a state of disbelief to realize what you just witnessed, because you already knew it was coming. And, that's the whole point of the daily energy forecast that I put out there, is not to say, hey guys, we're having another, shit day where, life is hard and we just want to curl up in a ball and die. That's not why I do it. I do it so that you can stay ahead of the energy, so that you can anticipate when shit is going to hit the fan, so that you can observe it instead of react to it. Because again, reacting to it, giving that emotional charge, is feeding the evildoers that we're trying to take down. So why are you emotionally fueling the fire that we're trying to put out, right? Anywho, I digress again. This week, not only do we have all the things, right? All the things that we just talked about, but it's going to feel like we are overly exposed. Like we are just raw. We're wide open, raw, we're vulnerable. May I also just say, and again, I hesitate to talk this way because a lot of people aren't stable in their mental health, and people tend to take things too far and misinterpret and, create a tizzy for themselves that they don't need to be tizzying. But spiritual attack or psychic attack is going to be very, very palpable here this week. Specifically because, and let me just reiterate this in case, I didn't hit it home the first couple of times. When we enter into a brand new karmic battlefield, you are challenged the most in order to see how strong you are over your energy, over your emotions, over your mentality, over your attention. That's why I said earlier in this forecast, when shit hits the fan midweek, and there's like a topic and a storyline biting for your attention, and as horrific or horrible or as uncomfortable as it may make you feel, you just can't look away, or else you're being a participant to what it is that they're trying to create, which is giving you a situation and a circumstance to evoke an emotional reaction that fuels their fire, right? So I don't know, I'm a little bit of a spiteful person when it comes to the fact that I know these MFers are trying to get certain things from me, and I double down to make sure that they get nothing from me, and a lot of people just aren't really aware that even though they're aware of the darkness and the corruption, they find such anger and hate and disgust within themselves, because obviously it's an ugly thing that we're facing when you face the darkest parts of humanity. But people don't realize that when you hold disgust and when you hold anger and when you hold hurt and you hold frustration for what it is that you're witnessing, they're still winning because you're feeding them the lower emotional vibrations and frequencies that is crack to them. So why do it? If you know that we're living in a simulation and you know that the evildoers script these, situations and circumstances in order to further divide instead of unite and to get an emotional reaction out of you, why are you paying attention to it? Why are you giving them what it is that they want? I don't know. Me, I'm just I know what you want from me, and I'll be damned if you're getting an ounce of emotional fuel for me. You're not getting it. It ain't happening. And so I double down and I make sure that I'm acting as the observer and that I'm turning away. If you see somebody over there, smoking ponies and waving flags and whoo, look at me, look at me, look at me. I don't know about y'all, but I am immediately pivoting and looking in the opposite direction at this point, because nothing good can come out of these distractions is what I'm saying. And so, the psychic attacks that come at us when we enter into a new karmic checkpoint or new karmic playing field, they're always hella intense. And if you lose the battle right out the get-go, then you're going to spend from now until December 21st, which is our next karmic checkpoint, trying to balance the scales, specifically in Libra season, to take your power back. Why give them the power in the first place? I just don't get it. I don't know. Anywho, so yeah, feeling vulnerable, feeling overexposed, feeling attacked, definitely going to be hella prominent here, specifically at the beginning of the week. It's hard to have the right words. Our brains aren't working well. Our mouths aren't working well. We feel really smart, really genius level smart in our head talking to ourselves. The minute you open your mouth, it sounds like you haven't spoken to a human being in the last decade. The words don't come out right. It's blah, blah, blah. We're in preschool trying to form sentences. It doesn't even make sense. So it's very hard to articulate what's going on within ourselves. It's even harder to explain or express that outwardly. I already talked about the sleep disruptions and the dream distortion and the, let's call it astral trap that, some of those bigger group government people they're doing a very good job of it as well. I don't know if you've ever taken a look on social media, but the amount of people that are thrilled that, this government agency released all of these documents about astral travel and remote viewing and blah, blah, blah. And hemisync of the brain and all this. I mean, there is a lot of truth in it, But what they've explained and what they have disclosed is a trap. And people doubled down on it in eclipse season, which is just the silliest thing that you could do, because there's no stability in eclipse season and you're basically being poached in the higher dimensions and you're willingly, voluntarily putting yourself there. Please don't do that. Let's keep to ourselves. Let's stay grounded. Let's learn how to bring heaven to earth instead of going out into other dimensions and seeking a false heaven. Because when I say to you that the ways that they want you to leave your body, it's for a reason. They are never going to tell you the truth in its most organic state. They always slip in a little bit of a trick there, a little bit of a caveat for them in order to trap you. And so let's not do that anymore. Let's stick with source energy. Let's stick with the power within. Let's be okay with our lives. Let's build a realm and reality that we don't have to run, we don't have to escape from, that we don't have to project ourselves out of our body in order to have a better life. Okay? Let's learn to do the work to stay in our body and be comfortable in our body and build a realm and reality that we don't have to run and escape from. The last thing that I'm going to leave with you guys, which I think I've probably already kind of weaved into a multitude of explanations of what's going on here, but just the time distortion. You know, like the time has accelerated. We knew that time was going to accelerate coming into these eclipse events. We are but days away from the equinox as well. So even if we weren't in this eclipse event, time would be accelerating because it like sucks us into this new karmic playing field, if you will. But with the eclipse energy in there, like time is just all over the place. You could be missing time. Time could be sped up for you. I pay attention to my dogs, and let me just say this. Animals are like clockwork, right? And my dogs have been coming in an hour earlier at night. Yeah, I know time is changing, but it's not dark out there yet. But they're coming in an hour earlier than their normal time frame, and they're going to bed an hour earlier than they normally do. And that to me is highly significant that there has been a dramatic timeline change or a timeline adjustment, because animals, like you may question yourself. You never have to question animals. They are literally creatures of habit, right? And I've noticed a lot over this past week, specifically with timeline, routine, and structure. That my dogs, my babies, they're telling me big time, hey, guess what, mama? Something changed. Something ain't right. We're going to come on in now, and we're going to settle down for the night. Even though they have an hour left to be outdoors and to play, they want nothing of it. Their body systems are like, no, it's time for bed, and we're going to shut down early. So the moral of this story is if you can't trust yourself, if you can't trust your gut, you can trust your pets. Pay attention to the animals, because they definitely know what's up. So guys, I guess what I'm saying is that we're almost on the other side of things. Yes, it's going to be a bumpy couple of days. Yes, it is going to be very, very hard to want to stay in your physical vessel, but that is the best advice that I can give you. Find a way to soothe that central nervous system, to provide a little bit of security and comfort to your physical form to ride this very uncomfortable wave. I thank you so much for tuning in. I send you nothing but love. May the odds forever be in our favor. I hope the eclipse is as kind as possible for you, that you choose the higher timeline, the higher version of self. I hope you lock it in with the equinox. I hope you do not sway, you do not waver. I hope you hold the line. I hope you hold the space. And I hope to see you all on the clean slate karmic battlefield in just a couple of days. I send you nothing but love. I thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon.